Hello again, Hastings, and everybody else joining us on TV, online, or on the radio. I'm Tom Wright, moderating tonight's Hastings Candidate Forum for 2016. We are now going to meet and hear from our candidates running for Ward 3 of the Hastings City Council. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Lisa Leifeld and Mr. Tony Nelson. Now, before we get started, for those just tuning in or just joining us here in the audience, I just want to go over the quick rules of play here. This is a forum, not a debate. The candidates will each have a minute to answer their question, and they will own that minute and can use it as they wish. There will be no interruptions. If the other candidate has to respond to something, they said they must wait to do so during their next answer. The candidates were provided the questions 1 week in advance. The exception is the one question they will get to ask each other. The audience will not be able to ask questions, but you, of course, are very welcome to ask questions out in the forum afterwards. With that said, we can start with you, Ms. Leifeld, on the introduction opening statement here. Please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Thank you. Well, good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Hastings Chamber. I would like to thank the Hastings Community TV for hosting this forum and for inviting me. Hastings is a great community. I'm very fortunate enough to have lived here my entire life. I went to school here, I raised 7 kids here, and I'm fortunate enough to work here every single day. I've worked in the private sector for my entire career. I spent 15 years working at Blue Cross Blue Shield in Eagan, and then was very fortunate to get a job at Wells Fargo and spent the past 12 years here in Hastings. So I'll bring valuable, real-life experience to the City Council. I'm not a politician. This is my first campaign. However, I wanted to run for City Council because I love my city. And I know that I can help build a place where my kids and their families will want to live down the road. I interact with business owners and residents every single day during my job, and in my job, as a result, I know what is going on in our community. I know that I can represent my city well with my fresh ideas and my new perspectives. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, and I should note the incumbent in this race. Mr. Nelson, please introduce yourself and provide any information you wish regarding your background and experience.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. I'm Tony Nelson. I was born and raised in Hastings, much like a lot of people that still live in town. I did grow up north of the city, in Denmark Township too, but not in Pine Coulee. So I know that. I graduated from Hastings High School in 1991. I have 2 boys that are in high school. I'm married to another local Hastings gal for over 20 years. I've owned a home in Ward 3 for over 20 years. I currently am a finance manager at Dakota County in Hastings for the last 12 years. I'm also a self-employed tax preparer with over 20 years of experience. Prior to getting elected to the City Council, I volunteered for 2 years on the Park and Rec Commission. I have served Ward 3 for the last 8 years as their City Council member. I chair the Park and Rec and Utilities Committees, and I also sit on the Finance and the Operations Committee.
Thank you. And we'll stay with you, Mr. Nelson. Tell us, why are you running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected?
Sure, thanks. I am running for re-election for my 3rd term of serving Ward 3 and the City of Hastings. As far as skills go, I have a strong finance background and tax background, so I have the ability to understand the city's budget needs and figure out the best way to spend your hard-earned tax dollars. We know those tax dollars are limited, and we want to spend those wisely. I have an 8-year history of making tough budget decisions. There's a lot of wants, there's a lot of needs in the city, but we only have so much money to spend on those wants and needs. Just want to remind people that City Council is a hard job, and we put in a lot of hours, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. Experience is very important. The 8 years of experience that I bring to the council, I think, should be rewarded. Thanks.
All right. And Ms. Leifeld, please tell us why you are running, and tell us what leadership qualities do you feel you have that would benefit your ward if elected.
You know, I feel that in order to be an effective council member and a true leader in our community, you need to have clear priorities based on what it is you're hearing from residents and businesses when you take office. As a result of what I've been hearing personally, I've developed a positive 3-point plan for Hastings focused on economic development, providing more opportunities for our youth, and keeping Hastings beautiful. My ideas for economic development are that we need to bring more jobs to our city by encouraging development, re-examining fees and taxes that we impose on our businesses as well as our developers. We need to encourage businesses to locate here and not expect those who are already here to pay more. When I talk about youth in our community, we all agree that our youth are the future of our community. We need to find more ways to get them involved in our city. We have an incredibly beautiful historic downtown. I think we can build on that by working more closely with the Chamber of Commerce and encouraging tourism, as well as taking another look at our 2030 comprehensive plan, our sign ordinance, and the plan for the Vermilion Corridor. You never get a second chance to make a
Please
first
wrap it up, Ms.
impression,
Leifeld.
and there are areas in need of aesthetic enhancements.
Thank you. You will get to answer this one first, Ms. Leifeld. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by the local government, if at all?
I talk with business owners who live with the economic struggles of running a business, not people who sit on committees, but owners who have had to make real sacrifices, tough decisions to meet payroll. These are the people that I talk to. Our city government cannot continue to be seen as a roadblock to doing business in Hastings, but rather as an advocate for those who want to come and do business here. City Hall needs to be a willing and helpful partner, a partner with the people who want to locate here, who want to create jobs, and for those who want to expand their local businesses. Having a strong business environment here helps all parts of our community. Take the schools as an example. If there were more job opportunities in Hastings, more families with school-age children would move here. They would enroll their children in our schools, and now the declining enrollment is no longer an issue. I want to work together with the Hastings Chamber. I want to brainstorm on how we can attract more businesses here and keep those that we currently have. I'm concerned when I hear about companies such as the Creamery who are thinking of moving away from Hastings. That is a genuine concern for me, and it should be a concern for you as well.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, your turn for this one. What is your assessment of the Hastings business climate? What are its biggest needs, and how do you feel those needs could be addressed by local government, if at all?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. I think the overall business climate is fine. We're in fine shape here in the city of Hastings. I think the way that the city can help assist the business climate is to use the developmental tools that we have in our toolbox. We have TIF. We've used that. We have tax abatement. We've yet to use that, but we've had some requests for it. We've had city purchase. We've used that. And we have the waiver of city fees. However, we can't be giving away all of our money. We have limited tax dollars, and we still have to make plans for the future. Just some examples of the business climate that we've expanded on. We've used TIF for the Hudson building. It's going to be a great building once it comes time to build that. We've had city purchase of the Hudson building as well. We've used TIF for the Napa building, where we have the auto parts store. We have a lot of businesses that stay growing in the city of Hastings, and I want to keep that drive alive. Thanks.
Okay. And we'll stay with you for this next question. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
Sure. First off, Hastings is a river town, and we need to utilize the river a little bit more. I propose that we start working with the Army Corps of Engineers to figure out how we can get more boats to stop here in the city of Hastings. We need a bigger marina. Could you imagine if we could somehow refurbish Lake Rebecca into a marina so that boats could stop here and utilize our downtown? And then that would make it a lot easier to have a nice boat launch that we wouldn't have to launch right into the city, right into the Mississippi River in the city. However, in Ward 3, which I'm specifically in charge of, we have some underused areas that should be top priority to redevelop. Part of that is on Highway 61 and Highway 47. That's the anchor of Ward 3 there, and it's a big part of the corridor. We almost had a development there, but that fell through and Quick Trip moved to 17th Street, which is a fine building there. It replaced a couple of old-looking buildings, and we got a nice, brand-new-looking building out of it. But we still have to make that redevelopment fit in with the neighborhoods. That's the one thing about Ward 3. There's a lot of business that backs up to the residential areas, and we have to make sure that that fits. Thanks.
Thank you. And back to you, Ms. Leifeld, for this one as well. What ideas do you have or have heard from others you have not mentioned yet that you believe would improve Hastings?
I would like to speak for a moment about the budget. I favor taking a conservative approach to finances that doesn't assume that our revenue is going to continue to grow at its current rate. We need to allow for the potential loss of government aid from the state because it's been unreliable over the years. Cities that budget conservatively and plan ahead are much better prepared to weather inevitable economic downturns. Another thing that I'll commit to is to stay engaged with the residents of Ward 3. I'll put out regular updates on social media, produce an e-newsletter so that everyone can stay involved and in the know. My email and my phone number will always be published, and I'll get back to you. I want to truly represent the people of Ward 3, and that means staying in close touch. I want everyone to know that Lisa Leifeld is their city council member and that I will listen to them. And although we may not always agree, my door is always open, and you'll always know where I stand.
Thank you. That brings us to the question that you will each get to ask each other. And we will start with Mr. Nelson. We'll be asking the question to you, Ms. Leifeld. So, Mr. Nelson, and before I let you ask that, I just want to make our audience aware that may just be tuning in. We do have parameters set. In a nutshell, they cannot be personal. The questions must be understood by the general public, and they have been vetted. They were submitted beforehand, and so we shouldn't have any surprises. Shouldn't. Now to you, Mr. Nelson, you may ask your question.
Thanks, Tom. Lisa, in 2008, you lost the primary election for Ward 3 City Council member. Since that time, approximately how many city council meetings have you attended, and do you recall the reason why you attended?
Interesting question. This is actually my first campaign. In 2008, people had come to me. There was a retirement going on, and people were really excited about some new, fresh energy, some new ideas. So I had a number of people come to me and want me to put my name in the hat. I thought it over. I thought it seemed like a really great idea. 2 to 3 weeks in, I'd received some calls from Tom. I'd received some calls from the newspaper, and I found out at that point this wasn't the time for me. It wasn't the time that I could commit to my city. I had 7 kids at home 8 years ago, not 2. I had 7. At the time, I had 3 dogs and 2 cats, and there's probably a hamster and a rat in my house. I didn't have the time to focus on my city. I was focusing on my family. So although I didn't lose a primary election, I chose 3 weeks in to withdraw my candidacy so I could spend time with my family. Now my family has grown. And here I am, 8 years later, ready to give my city, my hometown, my all. Thank you.
Can I ask that she answer the second part of the question?
We have to move on, Mr. Nelson. If you have something to say, you may use your next minute. Ms. Leifeld, it is your turn to now ask your question to Mr. Nelson.
Councilmember Nelson, you've been on the city council for 8 years now. Have you ever voted one way and now wish you could go back and change your vote?
I don't think so, honestly. I don't make rash decisions when it comes time to vote. Sometimes I've been on the end of a 1-6. Sometimes it's 2-5. Sometimes it's 7-0 and it's a slam dunk. But I don't think I've ever voted where I've regretted my vote.
All right. Mr. Nelson, we stay with you for the closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
Great, thanks, Tom. I think what the voters need to look at here, and the businesses as well, that are able to vote for Ward 3, is the direction that Hastings is heading. Which way are we going? I believe we're going in the right direction. I think we're going up, and we have a lot of great things going on for us. We have the riverfront redevelopment that we just reinvested a lot of money in, a lot of time. It was a 3-year plan. It's beautiful now. We're going to come back and finish off that alleyway next year, and total money spent is going to be probably $4 to $5 million. That's a lot of money for this community. It looks great. When I was growing up in Hastings, the only thing you could do down at the river was throw rocks in, right? I mean, you remember that, right? I still see kids throwing rocks in it, but it's beautiful now. They can still play on the musical instruments down there. It looks great. So I think, look at the investment that we've made in our downtown and in other areas too. and determine if we're heading in the right direction. Keep that direction going. Re-elect Nelson, re-elect the experience. Thank you.
And now for you, Ms. Leifeld, please provide your closing statement. This is your final opportunity tonight to address the voters. In your response, please tell them why they should vote for you and provide any other information you wish.
I am truly honored to have this opportunity to run for city council in my hometown. I'm not a politician. I am not a lifelong government employee. My concerns and fears are the same as yours, and I want what is best for all of us and what's best for our community. I have never been known to go into anything half-heartedly, and I can promise you this: I will give you my all, and you will always know where I stand. Again, look at my positive 3-point plan for Hastings. First, there's 2 equally important components of quality economic development. That's basic retention and attraction of businesses to the Hastings community. We need to do more than just answer the phone if it rings. We must be proactive to bring new businesses to our wonderful community. Second, the youth of Hastings are the future of Hastings. We must do whatever we can to advocate for strong families. With roots dating back to the 1850s, Hastings has an amazing historic character that few other cities possess. We all need to work together to keep Hastings beautiful. I want to thank each of you for giving us your valuable time tonight by being here and giving us the opportunity to talk to you. I want to thank Tom and the Hastings Community TV. I want to thank Christy and the Hastings Chamber, and I want to thank Tony. And I want to remind all of you of the most
Please
basic
wrap it
civil
up, Ms.
right,
Lynn.
and that is the right to vote. On Tuesday, November 8th, I would be honored if you would vote for me, Lisa Leifeld, for 3rd Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. How about our hand for candidates for Ward 3? All right. Again, these races will be on our YouTube channel, so if you'd like to watch any of this again or miss any of it, they will be available there. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll have our candidates for our final ward of Ward 4 in Hastings. See you then.